And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Black and Blue Pod. I am your host, as always, Matt McLaughlin, here with Timmy Gorman. All-Star Weekend is officially under wraps. A head coach at a Power 5 program has been suspended for the remainder of the season. A lot of big basketball news to catch up on, so we're just going to hop right into it. Juwan Howard, the University of Michigan's head basketball coach, has been suspended the rest of the season, which is technically 5 games, the rest of the regular season, I should clarify. After striking Wisconsin, the coach Joe Krabenhoft, there were some exchanges, and to really give context to the situation, Wisconsin is up 15 points with 15 seconds left. Assistant coach for Wisconsin, Greg Gard, calls a timeout. He argued in the postgame presser that the timeout was to kind of a chance to regroup and break up Michigan's defense, to sum up his response. And Juwan Howard did not take that too lightly. There's a video out there by Pablo Iglesias on Twitter, which is full unedited, and you can kind of get a better look to see how everything went down. So Juwan Howard suspended, and at this point, it feels like to me, Timmy, we talked about this, after when this whole thing first went down. I felt like when I realized that there were 5 games to go in the season, I was like, okay, yeah, he's suspended for the rest of the regular season. Because my first thought was like, it's the halfway point of the season. This college basketball season has flown by me, like both of us.
Insane.
It's insane. So I thought he was going to get suspended for like half a season or something like that. And I was like, no way should he be suspended for half a season for something like that. But 5 games, I think, is completely fair. I think this is a point where with Juwan Howard, you got to believe that he was expecting this team to be much better than they are. They're barely sitting at 500. And this was a team ranked top 5 in the country coming into the season, and they've just completely fallen off, at least for this season. And it's got to be a boiling point where he feels disrespected, and on top of the frustrations of Michigan just being absolute dog shit, he's pissed because when he's taking this job that he's thinking of that Chris Webber, the timeout championship game, and he's trying to avenge that. He has that great season last year, and now this year they're barely struggling to even get a good seed in the Big Ten tournament. I think this is all general frustration, and Juwan Howard's a competitive motherfucker. He's one of those guys you don't fuck with, and I don't think calling the timeout wasn't necessary. I don't care what Greg Gard's logic or rational is. I just think it was completely unnecessary, and you didn't need to do that. You had the game won, and breaking up the defense I don't think is a legitimate excuse. And I think
he said that he was trying to clear, like he was like, oh, they were going to get a backcourt violation. Like, bro,
yeah, he was trying to
you're up 15 with 9 seconds to go or something.
Like, this game wasn't in the balance, or like this wasn't in peril or anything like that. You didn't need to advance the ball, and it was like, all right, I would be pissed too if I was Juwan Howard, because it feels like my team just got disrespected, and everyone just Wisconsin just took a fat dump on us. How are we going to respond? And maybe this lights a fire in Michigan's butt where they can finally, do something in the tournament. But that's my whole take.
No, I wholeheartedly agree. We think you said we talked about it on Sunday, and it's definitely one of those, the way Michigan sits right now, they're one of those annual teams that was picked to have extremely high expectations based off of the year they had the previous season. They made it all the way to the Elite Eight last year, right? They played a pretty close game from what I remember. It was didn't they go to overtime, or it was like they almost went to the Final Four, correct? From my recollection, because I never believed in it. I never thought they were that good, and then they were hanging with whoever it was whose reason they were in. Was it Gonzaga?
Hold on. I'm pulling up the schedule. They made it to Elite Eight against UCLA. They lost by 2 points.
Yeah. So, and so they had, even though they lost players, they brought in some big time recruits again, and they were, expected to be whatever. And like you said, number 5 in the country. They won their first couple games. Then Seton Hall goes to Ann Arbor, ekes out like a 1 or 2 point win, and Seton Hall used that momentum to start like 13-1, right? And then they fell apart. And now they're not even 10 games over 500. They're living on the bubble life themselves. And so, at the time, I think everyone saw that and was like, oh, here's just two tournament teams who had to really knock them out, drag down more in November. And we could probably see this rematch maybe in like the Sweet 16 in 5 months.
Yeah.
What as it turns out is neither of them might be there in 5 months.
For real. All
and
of
the
a
only
sudden, now they're
difference
looking.
is Kevin Willard isn't trying to punch Jay Wright in the face in between, even though he probably had the right to, no pun intended, for the way the officials have called some games for them. But back to Juwan Howard is like you said, and I 100% agree. You come into the season top 10 ranked. You have high expectations. You're coming off a Elite Eight appearance. Michigan basketball has been on a boom for the last decade. They've been to two Final Fours in which they've made it to the title game both times. They got blown up by Villanova in 18, which is not anything to smite. I mean, that Villanova team wasn't losing to anybody.
Yeah.
I don't care who walked into that gym that day. They were so high on confidence. There was no Dante DiVincenzo would have outplayed Magic Johnson. He was on another level.
They were in that type of zone. Yeah.
Yeah, he was on another level that weekend. And in 2013, technically Louisville got their thing revoked, but they had that game and they choked it away. So this isn't like a once in a fluke thing. Like it's not like Michigan hasn't been good since the Fab Five left. So it is a little concerning that he's like I get it being frustrated and stuff like that, but it's not like you haven't had a winning season in forever. So not to play like good cop, bad cop. But I think
it's disappointment more than anything.
Right.
And it's like
the frustration I get it. But
he's still a former player. And that competitiveness doesn't go away. That drive doesn't go away. And when he knows he has a group that's on the doorstep of contending for a national title going into this season, and then you mentioned that Seton Hall loss early in the season. They dropped that game that he's probably kicking himself over. And it's just been an avalanche of dog shit since.
They got blown up by Zona.
Exactly.
North Carolina, who, according to the reports, is not even a 10 seed at 19-9 or whatever, the 18-8 or whatever they are.
Yeah.
And the historic ACC, not that it's historic this year, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
They're not even the 10 seed and they beat them by 21 points. So it's it's been a tough year. And, everyone can sit there and be like, oh, I can't believe he hit. And it's just did he cross a line? Yeah, but they're making it seem like he literally jumped 6 people and threw a KO blow to Greg Gard and got on top of him and put him in a freaking guillotine choke.
He's Nick or Nate Diaz just hammering away.
Not Greg Gard, whoever he's a former player. I know who
Krabenhoft.
Yeah, he's one of the 7,000 white boys with a buzz cut that has come through Wisconsin in the last 25 years to play there. But that said, it doesn't. And, he shouldn't have done it. But at the same time, not that it makes it better, but Greg Gard's got to have some responsibility. He's literally I called timeouts and we didn't get a backcourt, and he shouldn't have hit your coach. But at the same time, be a man and be like, you know what? That's on me. I understand why Juwan got upset, and I'm sorry for that. I shouldn't have done it. I should have just taken the backcourt. But he's not. He's being a douche about it, and he's making it worse. And it's I want to know where the hate is towards him on this. Everyone's fire Juwan, do this, do that. It's what else has he done that's been this irate? No offense, but this is this is the definition of the pussification of this generation of kids. Fucking Bobby Knight was throwing chairs at people, and it took 30 years to get him tossed.
And
now,
just looking, this is what the Big Ten needs. The Big Ten needs a big scrum. They need to get toughened up a little bit. This is what the Big East was built on. We're huge fans of the Big East, and this is what the conference was built on: was coaches chirping each other, teams fighting and getting in scrums. And what would happen? Technical fouls would be assessed. Game gets played. All right, let's go. Roll the balls out. And why are you calling a timeout with 15 seconds left? No matter what it is, really, when you're sorry, the caveat that you're up 15.
Yeah, with the caveat, you're up double digits with 15 seconds left. The game is in hand. There's no possible way they can make that. The only possible
Unless-
way is if they hit a three, you give them the ball right back in the corner. They hit another three, and you keep doing it 5 times in a row.
Like you
And
have to have
you're
like
not going to
Reggie.
do that.
You have to have Reggie Miller or Tracy McGrady like turn back time, and
But
then
even then, even if you steal the ball and throw it back, that's at least 3 more seconds off the clock.
yeah,
So they're going to run out of time eventually. Like logic should take place there.
yeah,
Like you said, the Big East, it's like they're like you go watch that 30 for 30, and they talk about how it was a brotherhood. Like when they got together, they all got in it together to have each other's backs so they could have more success on the national level. And they might have sat there and yelled at each other, but they all respected each other to the fact that they all went to each other's funerals. They all went to each other's weddings. They were all there crying on each other's shoulders the day that Greg's
Dave Gavitt.
Dave Gavitt. Sorry, I'm thinking of the other D-bag with the glasses, Sangiji or whatever.
I know who you're talking about. Yeah.
They were all there crying on each other's shoulders because as much as they hated each other on the court, and Louis Cornaceka and Massimino and John Thompson talk about this, and it's like we were at each other's necks, but behind the doors, we loved each other because we knew we helped each other. And that's like, it's like you're making me look bad, and then you go on and throw dirt onto the pile. Like, no, fuck you. Like, and you want to get mad at that? Like that. And that's Greg Gard in a nutshell, though. I feel like this isn't the first time he's done some cowardly shit like this. As a player, he was definitely a fucking cheap shot.
Oh, I forgot he was a player.
Like a typical Wisconsin guy, taking elbows to the stomach when refs aren't looking and falling over. Oh, he hit me for, So, I'm sick. Like, yes, Juwan shouldn't have done what he did. Juwan Howard. Sorry, I'm making it seem like I know him on a same basis.
Hey, Juwan Howard, you want to come on the show? You got plenty of free time now.
Right. But, let's also put a caveat. One of these guys is a Hall of Fame basketball player that revolutionized the game and was a key cog in one of the greatest college basketball teams ever.
Yeah.
On the left side here. On the other side is just some Midwestern asshole who probably is pissed at the fact that he'll never get the same recognition. So he's got to be a coward about it. And instead of being a man, he just keeps trying to make Juwan Howard look bad. And in my opinion, that only makes him look worse.
Yeah.
So, 5 games, I think in summary, 5 games, like you said, it's perfect. Even if it was halfway through the season, I think 5 games would have been enough. Now everyone in Philly has a reason to tune in to Michigan basketball because, Phil Martelli, shut up, people. Like, let's talk about people who don't deserve the coach. Anyway.
All right.
Let's see if he tries to stop a Michigan kid from transferring this time now that he's got a head coach power for 5 days. And so,
all right. We're in agreement.
Season, and like you said, the only way the only thing that can maybe change is that this has a positive effect on Michigan's team. They rally around each other. They say, "Hey, you know what? Coach want to fight for us. He smacked the shit out of that dude for us. It's time that we get his back." And we go out and we make a run and we win the Big Ten tournament. Outside of that, which it could happen, you never know. Stranger things.
Dude, if Georgetown can win the Big East tournament last year, anything can happen.
It's not like there's, like I was watching, I've been on a 30 for 30 kick and I was watching Survive in Advance last night.
Oh, I've been watching Phi Slamma Jamma.
Yeah, but it's just like, so it's like 2 completely different teams right there.
Yeah.
And that meet together in a championship, and it's like at one point NC State was left for dead in '83. It was their last year. Derek Wittenberg is literally sitting there being like, "My career is over," and they even talk about it in the first round of the tournament because things were tape delayed back then. Sidney Lowe fouled out, and the announcers, because they were down by like 4 or 6, goes, and that's how Sidney Lowe's career is going to end. Not knowing NC State's going to come back and win in 2 overtimes against Pepperdine and then make a run to the championship. So it's just like so funny. Like they were left for dead like 6 or 7 times. So it's happened. Like there's the Georgia team from 2013. No.
13? 15?
No, it was before that. Was it 13? It's whenever that tornado hit. And I want to say 13 because it was them and Vandy was in those semifinals too, and they shouldn't have been.
But
It might have been
anyway,
2011.
what
But
when
they were like basically what, like they were like 13 and 17, and they made the
2010 and 2011 they were 21 and 12.
so no, they were like
Uh,
they had a losing record.
they had a losing record. 2007 and 8 they were 17 and 17, lost in the first round.
That might be it then. It might be 2008 when they got it was like they were I think they had a 500 record, but they entered the tournament 13 and 17, won a couple games, like, and like their best player got hurt or fouled out a couple times,
yeah.
and then a tornado ran through downtown Atlanta or Nashville, and they had to suspend the game, and then they found, or like something happened in Georgia. I think it was Atlanta because it was Georgia, and they found out like that, like in like the heart of like UGA country, all this shit happens.
Yeah.
And they make a run, and they eventually make, so like you said, crazier things that happened. Yeah. There's crazier teams that have got in at the last minute. I mean, think about when this current format first came into play. The first 2 years where there was 11 seed games, they were the playing games. The first 2 seasons of that, one of those 11 seeds made it all the way to the Final Four.
Yeah,
that's the beauty of college basketball, though. So look
at last year. UCLA wasn't supposed to go as far as they were, and they were an 11.
They were another one. Weren't they in a playing game?
Yeah, they were an 11 seed. They were an 11 seed that went on that huge run.
Yeah, so it's, you never know. So
college basketball, man.
If I'm one of the leaders on that Michigan team, I sit down and I just go through all these references and I say, we were picked number 5 for a reason. It's not just because we're Michigan. It's not just because Juwan Howard is our coach. It's because we had the talent. And it may be, you never know. They're, they get a couple easy opponents. Some people lay down, and next thing you know, they get Wisconsin in the semifinals, and you telling me that's not motivation enough to smack them around?
Yeah.
So,
okay, so let's move on to All-Star Weekend. Officially wrapped up on Sunday night. Just some news that came out, like Chris Paul was awarded the first Kobe and Gigi Bryant Award for advocacy of the WNBA and advancement of women's basketball. So cool for him. Congratulations to CP3. Karl Anthony Towns wins the 3-point contest. Team Cavs won the skills challenge, which was the most confusing event I've ever seen. I was so lost. I don't know how I think every single team that went through that like gauntlet was confused at one point or another. Every single player got confused at one point. Obi Toppin wins the slam dunk contest, and perhaps one of the worst slam dunk contests of all time. Dwayne Wade was like calling it trash live on air. That pretty much shows you what that dunk contest was. And then team LeBron beats team Kevin Durant in the actual All-Star game. And it also came out that Chris Paul is going to be out 6 to 8 weeks at least with a wrist injury. So a lot of news. Just overall, the NBA needs to figure something out with the slam dunk contest, and the All-Star game can't be saving this weekend like every single year. Like that was my biggest takeaway, was like, I get it, the Elam ending. First of all, the people that are like saying that the Elam ending should be in regular season games can just fuck off completely.
It's so dumb.
Their ADHD brains can go back to scrolling through TikTok. Okay. Elam endings are cool because they're a novelty. They're cool because it's the All-Star game, and that in the fourth quarter, okay, the teams are going to start turning up playing defense. If you do that in every single regular season game, these motherfuckers that are still calling for the Elam ending are going to be the same crybabies that are saying, oh, my team didn't get the ball with enough time on the clock when we lost in an overtime game in the playoffs or in the finals, let alone in a regular season game. So I think we just got to figure out the timeout situation, like limiting the amount of timeouts a team can call within the last like minute, 2 minutes, whatever it is. There are just way too many stoppages. I think it was on the latest Ryan Russillo show. Jeff Van Gundy said there should be like a take foul. Like if a player intentionally tries to take a foul, it should be 2 shots and the ball for the other team, kind of like how there's a clear path foul.
Mm-hmm.
So that was one of the rules that Van Gundy was throwing out there, which I thought was interesting. But I'm just sick of this campaigning for the Elam ending. It's cool because it's a novelty, and then once you introduce it as the standard, it immediately loses it, and then people are still going to find a way to bitch and moan and complain. And yeah, I mean, the skills challenge made my brain explode. Karl Anthony Towns winning the 3-point contest was kind of cool. It was kind of cool seeing a big man shoot the 3 and splash some shots. But yeah, it was just underwhelming, and it was so weird seeing. Did you watch the NBA, the 75 team get announced during the All-Star game?
Mm-mm.
It was weird because not everyone was there because of like COVID concerns. And so what they did was, instead of like, they had the players,
Because you
like,
mean some of these guys are literally like the walking crypt keepers at this point because they didn't know what healthcare
I don't know how the
was
fuck
in
Bill
the
Russell's
70s
still
and
alive.
80s.
I don't know how Bill Russell's still alive. I don't get
Well,
it.
besides him, he's immortal. But I'm saying,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
besides that, like,
Bob
they didn't know
Pettit's
what
still alive.
healthcare
I
was
texted
back
my
then.
dad. I was like, Bob Pettit's still alive.
Another one. Look at Ralph. I mean, Ralph Sampson's not on the team, right?
No, I don't think so.
But like, look at him. When I was watching that Survive in Advance one, even he looked like doesn't look great.
Yeah, no. But the players that weren't there, off the top of my head, Bill Russell, Tim Duncan, and Larry Bird weren't there.
Why was Duncan not there?
Steve Nash wasn't there. I mean, if I'm Tim Duncan, like, do I really want to go through all this? I don't blame the guys that weren't there. Like, do I really want to go through testing and regulations and stuff to wear a suit and then go announce on the floor? Like,
Was he assistant coaching now?
I know he left I think he left after last season.
Okay.
He could be. That would explain why. Like, Steve Nash wasn't there because
Yeah, that I get with Nash because you don't want to take, you can't take.
But it was weird because like they would announce them and then it would show this like them pretending to wave to the crowd in like this hostage situation type crisis, where it's just like a white room and it just shows the name and they're just like pretending to wave. It's very awkward, very weird.
Well, I have a question.
Yeah.
Why whatever happened to the hologram shit? Like, I remember like when I was like when that first came about, and then even like when it first got used in like 2015 or something for like Tupac at like Coachella or like something like that. And it's like you would think by now, what's that, 7, almost 8 years later since then?
Yeah.
That they haven't perfected, like just like here's
because they would have had to do it for like a quarter of the team. They would have had to do it for like a quarter of the players, and they won't.
No,
they won't
is it still that expensive? And
Probably, definitely.
It's the NBA.
Still though, that's money they don't want to spend. Would you rather just shoot them in a room looking like a hostage crisis and you can just click play, or spend money on holograms that don't move or like shit like that? Like, the good news is that Michael Jordan was there, which I was kind of surprised. I was not expecting him to be there, to be quite honest.
Well, I guess I'm more thinking like, don't they have the technology to like have these guys in front of like a screen they're in, like capture their image, and so that it's just like them, like the image they give next to like, you know what I mean? Like you can't tell me that we don't. Like, I don't
we definitely do.
It's not a big complaint. It's just I would imagine they would try their hardest.
Trust me, it was weird. Dennis Rodman was there, which was very funny. I was not expecting him to be there.
What color was his hair?
Blonde. Scottie Pippen was there, but Jordan was there, which was, I felt kind of ironic. I think.
Did they talk to each other?
No, Pippen wasn't there. He was like on the Jumbotron or whatever. But let
me guess, they awkwardly showed Jordan's reaction right after Pippen was shown.
No, because no one was expecting him to be there. He was like one of the last people announced. So.
Who, Pippen?
No, Jordan.
Oh.
Yeah. So there was a moment when Jordan gets announced that he's like walking to the stage and he like talks to Rodman like briefly. And that was kind of cool because it was like, okay, the entire team isn't like shattered into pieces. They still like each other.
It's just Scotty at this point. Unfortunately, has lost his
fuck. Do I really have a fire drill right now? Are you fucking serious? All right, I'll be back.
All right.
Literally the worst timing I've ever fucking had in my life.
Oh, I don't know about that.
All right.
I had a fire alarm go off in the middle of other things happening in college.
All right, that's fair.
With a lady friend in the room.
Last time we had a fire drill, this chick was in the middle of showering. And so she came out like towel wrapped around. And I was like, oh, you poor soul. You poor soul. And it was like November too. So it was like freezing outside.
So my buddies lived in like my freshman year at Drexel. A lot of my friends, because they were like a couple of my high school buddies and kids I grew up with from Glenside, all lived on the same floor with each other in this dorm called Myers. And it was a temporary dorm that was built until they could get better dorms.
Yeah.
So they kind of built this thing out of necessity. And obviously it came with like faulty like wiring and stuff. Yeah. Not that it like would have killed anyone, but like, so the fire alarms would go off all the time, all day, every day. Like I remember like my first semester living there, at least twice a week, I would look out because my room was situated in my dorm room. It literally looked directly back onto 32nd and where their dorm was.
Yeah.
And so I could literally see the lights flashing, and I turn around and I look, and I get like I'd look at my phone and see the text message coming in and be like, fuck you. And I'd be like, how's that cold right now? I'm like, ha ha ha. So then of course karma gets me. It's literally like 2 weeks before the end of fall semester. It's a Friday. It's December. It's maybe 20 degrees outside.
Yeah.
I'm in the dorm room, like come back from a party, like at another place, go with you know who, and we're in the dorm because her roommate has disappeared for the weekend, whatever. And it goes off and I'm like, shit, this is not good. Like throw on clothes real quick, run outside, and we get outside and there's like 5 of our friends that are literally just sitting like in this like huddled mass. Like everyone's outside at this point. Everyone's either coming back drunk or whatever. Not everyone, but most of our people. And a couple of my friends are just like staring at their hands and I'm like, what the fuck is up with you guys? And they're like, bad time the robo trip, man. And I'm like, oh my God. But like the one whole side of their dorm floor, because it was like, it's a weird shape. It was almost like a cross the way it ran out, like where it would like, you'd go like this and then like come down. So like they have a hall here, a hall here, a hall here.
Yeah.
And so the one whole like top wing of the floor were all like potheads who would like experiment. And like 15 of them decided to robo trip on a Friday night because they're like, we're not going to go out. It's cold. And of course the fire alarm went off, not once, not twice, but 3 times between midnight and 3 a.m.
Nice. All right, let's get back to this pod. So All-Star game, I mean, Steph put on a performance of a lifetime with 50 points, absolutely dropping 3 bombs left and right. So, I mean, I don't know, Timmy, am I crazy for being like the Elam ending sucks? Or not that it sucks, but it shouldn't be in the regular season. Like it shouldn't be
not at all. It's a gimmick. Like it's something that they needed to get people to come back to watch the All-Star game, because the late 90s and early 2000s was just a bunch of like braggadocious douchebags who were out there like doing the dumbest shit possible, like, you know, going to nightclubs 24/7. Not that you can't go out, but you know what I mean? Like they didn't care. They weren't the 80s stars who cared enough. And not that those guys didn't drink. Like you see it in the the Last Dance. And you know, and Larry Bird talks about it. He's just like, you know, they would have beers in the locker room and stuff. It's not that, but these guys took it to a whole nother level. There was alcohol, there was drugs for some of them, there was these huge entourages, and they all came from a lot of them came from bad lives that they try to escape, and you can't escape that life when you're bringing it with you. As I'm saying, I'm watching a prime example right here, Chris Herron, the unguarded 30 for 30.
Oh,
he just talks about it like everything would be fine. And the second he went back to fall room ass, it went to shit. And it did, like, it was just like, and then like getting traded to the Celtics was the worst thing that could have happened, because he basically was living with an oxy addiction while being a professional. That's insane.
Yeah,
he was addicted to oxy before there was even a cure or understanding of what to do with it. Like Suboxone, which is still just as bad, would have something they could at least given him so he could be okay from day to day.
Yeah.
Didn't exist back then. So he was addicted to oxy, and then going out and playing 29 minutes a game, and some games like dropping like 25 points and like 10 dimes and like 3 steals while high as a kite. And it's just like, and that was like the definition of a lot of these players from like the late 90s to like probably like when LeBron really got started to establish himself as the man in the league in like 2007.
Yeah.
And then it kind of switched back to like
dedication.
And
Stern was trying to clean up the league when
AI
was coming in and
right. And that's probably the biggest person we like as Philly fans. I mean, for you, it's all kind of like going back and reading because the height of it was when you were just born. But as me, I remember looking back now and you can watch these tapes and it's like as somebody who's gone through certain things like this, I can watch those games and be like, he's fucking drunk there. He's on a hangover here. Like, look at how baggy his eyes are. Look at how bad he is in this press conference. And then the things come out later in life that he would go to this TGI Fridays on the main line, one that I frequented many a time from having dated a girl on the main line and having friends out there. And it's just it's not hard to find celebrities there because a lot of rich people live out there because there's gated communities and they can hide. And you get every so often just get a couple of random regulars, and it's a lot of celebrities that used to go there. And he would go there and put down a 12-pack of Corona, and sometimes he would do that before a practice.
Yeah,
he would
it's
fill
crazy.
half in the bag to practice or to a game.
Yeah. So coming out of the All-Star break, the Sixers have a tough schedule coming up for them, and with the Harden debut, it's on Friday night. We're taping this on Wednesday afternoon.
It's not guaranteed, or is that just speculation?
It's 90% guaranteed. He's not listed on the injury report, so that's good.
So as long as the Lilas doesn't give him a free red carpet ceremony tomorrow, we're good.
Yeah. As long as someone locks him in a hotel. Well, it's at Minnesota, so that's the good part. Is that he's going to.
Yeah. He ain't going to strip clubs out there.
Yeah, nah, he's staying home. And
not even going to say about my next strip club.
Yeah.
So.
But keep in mind, this is the same Timberwolves team that D'Angelo Russell dropped 35 points, 8 assists, 4 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks earlier this season, and they won by 1 in double overtime. So that isn't a gimme by any stretch of the imagination.
Is this our second or third game versus them?
Second. We just have 2 games with them in the season series.
I don't know why we played them twice and both games were crazy.
So in the month of March, they have 13 games against teams that are in the playoff picture as of right now, which is nuts. And they also have a back-to-back series versus the Knicks, and the Knicks have won both games of the season series this year. So
what?
Yeah.
Oh, well, won't both of them when Embiid was out because of COVID?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. But still, it's far from a gimme. And now they're sidelining Kemba Walker the rest of the season. Did you see that?
Oh, was he even producing for them?
No, that's why they were like, hey, just chill out here. It's like when Al Horford got benched for OKC or whatever.
Poor Kemba. It's a shame, man. That thing just deteriorated. It's almost like there's a curse on, it's like it'll be the new curse for Boston Celtics point guards because of what they did to Isaiah.
I wouldn't be surprised. So all eyes are going to turn towards this James Harden, Joel Embiid pairing. I mean, there's a situation because the standings are so close. The Sixers are only 2.5 games back of first, and the 7 seed, or excuse me, the 6 seed is only, which is the Boston Celtics, are only 4.5 games back.
I mean, even the 7 seed in Toronto is only 5, so you're not wrong in saying that.
Yeah, so that does not give the Sixers a lot of room for margin of error in bringing Harden into the offense. Doc said something that, he's just going to try and throw him in and see what works, see what doesn't, and we're just going to have to work through those pains, pretty much those growing pains. There's a situation here where I could see the Sixers slipping into the play-in tournament because there just isn't enough time to incorporate Harden into the offense.
You mean for good, or just at a certain point before they get it right and then earn a 4th seed?
I think there will be a point where they slip into the play-in and then they come out of it and then claw their way back into the 6 or 5 seed maybe. With a team like Chicago that is thriving despite injuries to key guys like Lonzo Ball and Alex Caruso and Patrick Williams, they got continuity there too. With Miami, obviously Pat Riley is going to ride up that team's ass until it finishes as the first seed and then take the playoffs from there. So you're dealing with teams that are a lot more continuous compared to others. With Brooklyn's just throwing everything but the kitchen sink pretty much, and we'll see when Ben Simmons comes back. Ramona Shelburne was reporting that he could be back in weeks, not months. Milwaukee, Giannis, I definitely think he's set up for a tear. And it just feels like in my Philly sports fan brain, it doesn't feel like this is going to go smoothly because it's never easy with Philly sports. It's always going to be something that happens where there's going to be a skid and then the sky's falling and now all of a sudden they don't know what the fuck to do. But maybe there's some hope. You got Joel Embiid, who's the MVP. I just learned this today. Joel Embiid's number one in scoring coming out of the AllStar break.
Is he really?
In the entire league. Yeah.
What's his average for the year? 27?
29. But
I didn't realize it got. Well, it doesn't surprise me, but I guess it's just because they weren't making it seem like it was that high.
Yeah, so I believe I'm double checking it now. It was on NBA.com. Season leaders. So it's 29.6 for Joel. Giannis is right behind him with 29.4. LeBron is sitting at 29.1 at third. So obviously the biggest concern I think coming out of this Harden trade is how much of Joel Embiid's production is going to be reduced because of Harden. I don't think it'll be that much. I don't think you're going to see as many 40-point, 45-point games. It's going to level out a little bit. But
Embiid?
Yeah, with Embiid, yeah. His point output is going to level out a little bit.
Okay, I agree.
But I don't understand how he's not the MVP. I don't understand it. He's number one in scoring. Let's assume that he finishes number one in scoring. He would be the first.
But it's not just the scoring; it's everything else. It's the rebounding, and the fact that he doesn't have a second. He hasn't had his best sidekick is a guy who's best suited as a 3 or a 4, and Tobias Harris, and a second-year player who maybe in 2 years could be an all-star. And as much as we all love Tyrese, but he's not that player yet. He's not consistent enough. Exactly,
and people are arguing Giannis and Jokic. Embiid just schooled Jokic in most of the All-Star game. And before the All-Star game, in the last game, Joel Embiid put up 42 and 14 in the last game against Milwaukee. On the road. In a win.
On the road in Milwaukee.
On the road
without Harden. Without Harden. Without two or three
what does he have
players.
to do? What does this man have to do? What does he have to do? If he
played for anybody but the Sixers,
I swear to God,
he would already have the MVP locked up. But because it's the process, because he's embraced the city, because he loves the city loves him, and he calls himself the process, and he basically gives a middle finger to all those people that want to hate on it. They will hold that against him forever. And it would not surprise me if he continues to play like this and maybe goes down to 25 points, but still has 14 to 15 rebounds.
Yeah.
A block or two, 1.2 blocks, maybe 1.8 steals per game, and 3.4 to 4.4 assists.
Yeah.
That's MVP numbers right there, right? And the Sixers finish in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference, right? That's an MVP. Unfortunately, it won't be enough because of Giannis was even better this year than he won the first 2 MVPs. And it's okay, whatever. So they will find every reason. They sucked his dick for 2 weeks. That's all he was ever going to get. And now it's basically unless he goes out, there's nothing he can do. Because even if he went out and did the triple-double shit and it was 33, 22, and 10, they'd be he's hogging the ball. There's no winning with these assholes. Because now apparently Jokic is the best player in the league again.
Dude, literally, this was a sentence literally said on The Mismatch by Kevin O'Connor was, I know standings don't matter that much in MVP voting. Excuse me? Excuse me? What are we trying to...
I'm pretty sure he's one of the key leaders of the right side of history bullshit that him and Simmons started because they voted for Harden over Russ. And one of the bigger things they always talked about is how Harden's team was better than Russ's.
What the fuck are we trying to do? We're trying to win games. What the fuck? MVP, most valuable.
I'm Kevin O'Connor, and if you look at the equation and the stats plus per prevention,
Like, I don't understand. We're just
dork.
finding a
Never
reason.
played a game of basketball in his life that was competitive outside of in his backyard when he was getting schooled by all of his friends. But because he can add numbers together and knows some equations and has a somewhat okay writing ability, he is like the new, sports journalist, and it fucking ruins it.
But it's like, when did standings not matter? Does anyone else, does it feels like I'm screaming into the void here. Like,
and it's also not that. It's the fact that they want to be like, well, can you believe Jokic has done so much with so little? But
what the fuck do you think Joel Embiid's working with? What do you think?
And they'll sit there and they'll say it, and they'll be like, this person isn't that good on the Sixers. And they'll say it just to take shots at the Sixers players.
Yes.
But they'll never give Embiid that same credit. Whereas with Jokic, it's like, oh, he's only got Aaron Gordon and this person and that person. And it's like, well, you know what? That's the Nuggets' fault for investing so heavily in 3 players and drafting 3 other guys who had serious injury problems and then giving them big contracts or giving them chances and then trading them away. And Porter, Bol, and I can't think of the third now, but it's like Gary Harris, I guess, would be the other one.
RJ Hampton, that's it.
And Garrett, yeah. So, but then it's like, it's not Embiid's fault that Simmons is a fucking baby back bitch.
Yeah.
It had nothing to do with that. And yes, it's not Jokic's fault that Jamal Murray got hurt, but it is his fault that the Nuggets, it's not his fault either, but it is like, he's
got to work with what he has.
Exactly. And so does Embiid. But for some reason, it's Jokic is a more important thing than what Embiid does. And it all comes down to the process and Philly. And I will live by that.
And at the same time, I feel like terrible about myself as a fan because of the media, it's turned me into this like hatred for Jokic and Giannis because the media are pumping them up so much. Like, I want to love these guys. Giannis has a great personality. So does Jokic. But because the media is pumping them up as MVP guys, it drives me nuts and it makes me hate them even more because they're taking away an award that rightly deserves to Joel Embiid. If Joel Embiid finishes number 1 in scoring, he would be the first player since Shaq to finish, the first center since Shaq to finish as the top scorer in the league. The only other, the last player before Shaq was David Robinson in 93-94. So why are we instantly like taking away this credibility this credit that Joel Embiid deserves when he's just clearly the MVP? He's just clearly the MVP. He's working with fucking Tobias Harris, Tyrese Maxey, and he had Seth Curry for a little bit, who was a great addition, but now he has fucking James Harden. And then they're going to use that to take away an excuse to not give him the fucking MVP when he rightly deserves it. He's clearly the MVP. No one can change my mind. And if some stupid writer that thinks advanced stats matter, and because Jokic is 0.111111 above Embiid in a minuscule non-winning category, and that's why he deserves to be MVP, I will unleash a scorched earth campaign, the likes of which no military has ever seen before on the basketball media. It is ridiculous. It is blasphemous, as Stephen A. Smith would say, and it's outlandish. It's outlandish.
So no, I agree. So here is. So I was just looking at the schedule because you were talking about how like it's going to get hard, right?
Yeah.
And no, it's bullshit, and it's because of these guys that have never played a game past CYO or youth league ball, that never understood what it's like to be in a real competitive game or any of this other shit or play on any sort of sports team, and they came up and they're like the kid who got picked on that becomes a dickhead cop. Now they're the kid who never got a chance to play sports because he wasn't good enough. So they become the dickhead journalist who wants to use his own fucking dumb shit way, doesn't ever take into the intangibles like, hustle and heart and actual overall talent. They think that math is the only way to analyze the game now. And it's so fucking moronic considering how we analyze this game. Does it help? Yes, true shooting percentage and all that stuff. I'm for added disciplines. I am. Yeah. It definitely is a positive, right? Because it gives you another way to look at it. But it's not the end all be all. They're basically being hypocrites by saying the way you used to look at it with this absolute truth of it's only about points and rebounds and this and that and wins and losses. It's wrong. actually, it's about this absolute truth. No, actually, it's about both, you assholes. And it's like politics in real life that, there's radicals on each side and there's only a couple in the middle with clear heads that see it the right way. And so before I get even more,
I know.
18 games between this Friday, the 25th of February. So basically the end of February, shortest month. So from the 25th of February to the 31st of March.
Okay.
18 games the Sixers have.
Yeah.
Even split 9-9, 9 home, 9 away. Of those 18, including the 2 against the Knicks. So if you take the back-to-back of that, there's only 4 against teams with losing records.
Yeah.
So 6.
13 games.
So 13 games against. So technically it's 14 against teams with winning records.
Yeah.
And
with winning records.
With the Knicks included, it's 12.
Yeah.
But it's like when you get to a team on a back-to-back, in my opinion, even though they are down there in the standings, they may be playing a little bit better, trying to figure it out. They're not a cakewalk. And the fact that you get them back-to-back, one in MSG and then one at home, it's after the AllStar break when we're trying to integrate Arden. There's a little bit, and there's the Knicks, there's a New York-Philly rivalry, so there's a little bit of bad blood in there. So with that caveat, I'll say 13. I'll cut it. One game counts, one doesn't there.
Okay.
So 13 of those 18 games are against teams with a winning record. And in either and outside of Toronto and Brooklyn, who are 31-28, and I guess Minnesota, all sit in the top 6 or better in their conference.
Yeah.
And really, Brooklyn is 31-28, and so is Minnesota. 1-7 in one league, 1-8 in the other. Toronto has an identical record to Denver, who's a 6. So it's basically mismatch. Like those 6 to 8 seeds are, flip-flop them. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's 13 games against potential playoff teams. And the split is of those other 5 that are against just shite, or because one that back-to-back will matter.
Yeah.
So it's Orlando, both LA teams, and Detroit. You still get the Lakers and the Clippers on the road. And that and from the 23rd of March to the 27th, so a Wednesday to a Sunday, it's both LA teams on the road. And then to wrap that up, it's the Suns in Phoenix, and then come home 2 days later to Milwaukee.
It's going to be
visiting Philly.
Yeah.
And even before that, it's literally a back-to-back. They're almost playing. It's insane when you think about it.
Dude, look at that.
From Friday 3/18 to Sunday 3/27. They play the Mavericks at home, the Raptors at home, and then the Heat at home. And the Raptors and Heat are back-to-back. So that's the best team in the conference, and the Raptors who have been climbing over the last month and a half like there's nobody's business. So back-to-back. Then go on the road for 2 away games at LA, cap that off with a game in Phoenix. And like I said, so that's in a 8-day stretch, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 games. And if you want to get cute about it and turn it into a 10 to 11 day stretch, it's 6 games in that many days. And it's the last 2 games of that are the 2 of the best teams in the league in Phoenix and Milwaukee.
Yeah.
So like you said,
it's going to be tough sledding. This is you're getting everyone's, but you're going to get, this is going to make you or break you. This isn't, we're going and playing all the Nancys in the league. It's, it's none of that, And even when you think about it, that stretch kicks off with Dallas, who's been playing a lot better lately, with Luka, who seems to have learned from his, I'm going to show up overweight issues at the beginning of the season. Then Toronto, then Miami. Like I said, you can't take the Lakers or Clippers easily. We've already lost to the Clippers here. The Lakers, who knows what it's going to be, but I'm pretty sure if Joel's getting MVP hype,
Mr. I'm going to make everything about me, LeBron, after he hijacked All-Star Weekend, is going to hijack that game and play like he's playing for game 7 of his 10th title. And so just long story short is nowhere in there outside of, and you still got to go to Orlando. Not that that's like hard, but it's still on the road, right?
And Franz Wagner was giving them buckets when they matched up earlier this season.
Yeah. So it's just like, they get Cleveland twice, a home and home with them in this stretch. They get a home and home with Miami. They get Chicago in there, who may or may not have Zach LaVine. It's not easy. So this is where we find out the metal. And I'm just gonna tell James Harden one thing. He's not gonna listen to us or hear this, but you better leave the baggage at home. You better bring your big boy pants to work, and you better have a fucking chin and check your ego at the door and be ready to take some abuse. Because if you come out and don't play well in that first week, you're gonna hear it real quick. And if you can't handle that, then this is not the city for you to be in, and you will learn that very fast, my friend.
Very fast.
And that is my biggest issue with him. That is my biggest issue, is he's never had to play outside of Brooklyn. And even then, it's like, really, though? It's Brooklyn. They're more for their hipsters than their basketball fans.
Why do you think Ben Simmons wanted to go there?
I'm not saying nothing. That's nothing against Houston. Great fan base. They know what they're doing with basketball, but it is not Philadelphia. It is not playing at MSG every night for the Knicks. It is not playing in LA every day for the Clippers or the Lakers. It's not one of these teams that gets put on a microcosm on every little freaking thing they do that will get analyzed. And he better be ready for it, because in Houston, he could get away with a couple of dumb, lazy passes and not playing defense. He does that once here, he's going to get roasted, even if he drops 33 and a couple of other things.
All right. So I think we got a lot off our chest, and we'll see how the second half of the season goes. So thank you all for tuning in. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe on all of our audio platforms. Check out our YouTube channel. Going to be more active there. And we'll catch you in the next episode. So thanks for tuning in.